Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to some more game dev. Coming back again on the second stream for today. We did some importing of animations in the first stream, which ended up taking us a fair bit longer than I thought. There's definitely some tool work that I think I can do to improve the workflow for Drixie so that importing animations are not as bad. Definitely going through it myself has shined some major issues on just how time consuming some of the process is. For this stream, we are going to focus on trying to do some of the last few cutscenes. I don't think I'm going to be able to get through all of them by end of day, but I'm going to keep working on them. I do want to try and do at least a pass of idle and walk animations for a couple of the other characters. Yeah, those should be faster. So we'll do that real quick. We'll export 2 of the other characters. We shouldn't have to do any importing of animations like we did with our character in the previous stream. So it should be quicker. And then we're going to just work on getting more cutscenes built, getting them functional. Beyond that, the only other thing worth noting is next week is the final week. Basically, this is, if you count today, I've got 8 more days until my vacation ends, and then we've got to go back to normal work, which means we'll fall back into the Sunday streams rhythm more than likely, and just Sunday streams. But next week I'm hoping I can still stream a bunch, but the priority for me starting Monday is to get the build on Steam. Once I understand how that works, I'll schedule a bunch more streams, but this might take me a day, might take me an hour, or it might take me the rest of the final week here. But I do want to allocate at least the 7 days here towards making sure that I can get the build figured out on Steam. All right, that's the updates into the actual setup here. So I'm going to export the idle, and we have to lock that or unstar. Then we can do idle, run. What other animations might she need early on? I mean, the only other major one that I think we could use is a parry, but I think Drixie has that one somewhere, and I don't feel like going and doing the importing and exporting. So of the ones that are here, I don't think there's anything specifically that we could really use for any of the cutscenes. You know, I might just grab Kick as a substitute for parry, and we'll replace it later, just because I think the Kick is funny on almost every one of these characters. I just enjoy the Kick animation. Otherwise, this is all fine. Yeah, so then if we click on this character, go to scripting, and then run this, it should generate a bunch of animations for this character. Oh, we may have wanted to change the render file location. I'm going to change this to Amu's directory. We're going to actually just do underscore, because I just want to separate these out into their own folders. So we're going to go in here, and we should be able to see each of these rendering out via my script. So we have the run, we have the idle, and we have the kick, and that should be all we need. So then we're going to come into here. We're going to use Takashi as a base, and we're going to make a new folder for Amu. And then here, just rename this part. And then that should be all we need to do there. We need the run first. So let's bring... I'm going to delete all these other ones, because I think we're good on the run. We're good on the idle. We don't need the kneel down, but we'll leave it open. That one's fine to stay. But this one we've brought in... Did we bring in the talk in the end? Did we do... open, recent, a sprite? We did bring in the talk. Okay, so that one can go for sure. We didn't bring in the dismiss, and we did bring in this run. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to drag in the idle, so we'll do agree on that. We're going to try just doing 48, well, 48 by 48. Looks like that isn't going to quite work. We'll bring that down 2 pixels, down 2 pixels, and see how that looks. That looks fine to me. We will copy these, bring them into here. We still have the hero version, so that's useful. So we can bring these, drop them in, make sure that they're lined up relatively in the same spot, and then check. Yeah, so we want to drag all of these down, I think. So these should all come down to about here. Perfect. That seems good. And then we're going to also rename this. Let's get the run. That's the other big one. Run can be a bit of a pain sometimes to get set up. What has the lowest pixel? I think this one is tied with a couple of them for the lowest, so we'll go 48 by 48 and then bring this down 2 and down 2. See if that's close. Copy these and then bring these into here under the walk section because we use the run for our walk. This does not look like it's going to line up the same as hero. Oh, maybe. Oh no, this is the exact same animation as hero with the exact same skeleton for the most part. So we should be able to just bring this down a little bit and should be mostly lined up. We just want to make sure that we grab these ones as well. Almost looks like these need to be pulled back one as well. Give that a shot. That looks close. Yeah, we could spend more time lining these up perfectly, but I think this will work for the run. Okay, it looks fast here, but honestly, it's fast in game too. But I want the movement between tiles to be as quick as possible, because it just feels bad if it ends up taking a while. And then we're going to bring in the kick. We won't have one to reference against, so we will have to kind of eyeball this one more so than the others. Okay, this looks to be the lowest. Bring it down 3, down 3. Okay, 48 by 48. And then I just want to find the lowest pixel here. I think it's with the foot planted. So frame 9. And we're just going to bring this down here because I think that's going to get us closest to what we were doing before. Yeah, that feels right. So then we'll copy all these. We're going to bring them into here. And we're going to replace, I don't know, talk seems easy to me. And then we'll delete all of these other frames because we don't need them for this character. All right, and then we'll rename this to kick, which is a keyword that we have in our animation system. That was a problem we ran into at the end of the last stream, was trying to create a new animation without adding it to our animation script. That looks good to me. That's the walk, that's the run, and the idle is just a very simple movement. We will export that sprite sheet. Export sprite sheet. We're going to go to the correct folder. Rename the PNG. We're going to copy this because we're going to have to use this name here and again in a second. We're going to go into this one, go up a folder, go into this one, and use this JSON, or save the JSON here. Everything else here looks right. Array, packed. Yeah, that all seems fine. Cool. So then we're going to bring that in to Unity. We can test this character in this scene, and I believe this is still set to debug load all. Yeah, debug spawn all. Cool. And then what side are we entering from? South, which I believe is this one. Yeah, so that's great. That's exactly what we want to see. Which debug? We're doing post slime fight. I actually want to change this to after mace. Should be good enough. That should be a better debug state to be in for this test. And then we just need to slice and anim the character. I want to take a quick look at that character tool. Listen, I know it's a derail. I know unlockable characters with the hydration. I see it. I'm on it. I had to go find the water. Okay, now from here, I want to very quickly look at... Oh, we have it up, don't we? If I just open in here. This is what processes it. Is there a way to change it so that we do not process every folder? Because I would very much like to not have to process every single folder. Process anims. Slice anims. This takes an input directory. What does that input do? Does that try and filter them out? That gets passed in to here and into another function? Where's that other function? This one. Input is not used. Okay, well... There are other folders where we do properly set this up. Let's take a look in here. Sprite. Folder. 2 props. In this debug menu, we must have some sort of editor window for this here. Yep. Slice and anim characters. This calls both of these and can pass in a piece of information if we so choose. In fact, if we uncomment this, oh, interesting. Yes. Okay, so this will take a folder name. Folder name be in this context. If we take a look at the... So then... in here... if we give it another folder directory, how would I do that? This? I'd have to give it another text field, but I could give it its own folder directory so that it's unique. It would have to go here. And then instead of using this folder name, we would have a new one for character folder name. Okay. Which would go here and here. And then we could make sure if that value is not empty, we could combine the path name. And this path name starts with characters. So at the top, right here. So if we wanted to do specifically this folder, we would need to save. Should update and add a name here. And if we do npcs / amu and then do slice and anim, it should only do this folder. We might need capitals, I'm not sure. Cool, that looks like it worked. So then if we go to her container prefab and change it to use this sprite renderer, and we'll just put one of these in as a default sprite. Oh, we also want to update this to use one of the idols by default, because otherwise it looks weird. Okay. That looks good. She is a fair amount brighter than Hero, though. Oh, interesting. Why is the kick not getting unselected? Oh, am I modifying the animator directly? I want to modify it here. There we go. That seems better. Yeah, maybe it's just the colors, but she's looking a lot brighter than Hero. Like in a standout kind of way, but we can worry about that later. We just want to get the character in. Okay, so that is the adventurer, and we should be able to have her walking around. In fact, if we do this cutscene, it should animate her leaving the level, so we can see a bit of the movement stuff and make sure that is working correctly. So we come in, we've got an idol, we activate this, we cross over, and we get this cutscene. Lisai. I renamed all of these at some point, and there are still cutscenes that are busted that I did not think would be, but very much are. So I guess in this situation, we are trying to move her in cutscene G7. Trapped Adventurer is using the correct container. Boar Alerted needs to be using the Amu container instead of Adventurer 001. Boar container, boar, yeah, okay, everything else should be fine. I feel like I probably should have just left everything as Adventurer 001 instead of naming them. But at the same time, as we started to give them names, it started to be confusing to figure out like which one's Adventurer 01, which one's 02. It just felt like long term it was probably going to be better to just give them design names. Because even if the names change in writing, even if it changes in design name, I feel like these will be more distinct and we'll remember what these names used to be. So it's still trying to use Adventurer 001 container. Which cutscene did we break? This is now a side quest. I'm going to try and figure out what I broke, but this is Boar Alerted. That's what we're triggering right now. I'm pretty positive that that's the cutscene. If we click on the actual trigger, yeah, Boar Alerted is the cutscene. Is it in here somewhere? No, this is all correct. It says it's trying to change the facing. That one. Got it. Any others? No, okay. Just missed it. I just want to see her walk. That's all. I just want to see her move, and then we're going to go set up Usato, and then we're good. And then we're good. Why did this get changed? We've been working on a importer-exporter. Let me double check something. Yeah, okay, cool. We've been working on this importer-exporter for a lot of the cutscenes, and I feel like something about the import-export is breaking. Because this is now a couple of times now where I've seen it use the small dialog box in a situation where I don't think it used to be doing that. So I think importing and exporting is breaking something. Either that or I'm just... Oh, you know what it might be? No, I'm wrong on this. This one is because I changed this. This was a placeholder line before, and I've since updated it. That's okay. That's fine. I could do a re-import, but it's faster to change it in both spots right now. Okay, that's working. Yep, movement, facing changing. And the fade worked. Okay, cool. So that's that. The animation side of that's all working. There is a problem where it can't find a PNG to use for the characters. So we should also set up some portraits that Drixie can replace later. So we're gonna make a new character portraits folder. We're gonna steal none of these. Actually, no, we do want to use one of these as a base. So we'll grab hero, paste that in here. We're going to rename this to Almu, and then we're going to open this in Sprite, load the default palette, and I think we want her to have this kind of color palette, and we're just going to use a big pink box for now, and we will give this doesn't need both. It still does need both. We have not fixed it so it's a single image. That's something I need to add to my list of things to do. And then we just use hello. Yeah. I want to get rid of this like background face because we originally were changing the expressions, and Drixie made a bunch of these and I am not even using them. That is another pass we should do at some point here, is go through all the dialogue and change which portrait images we're using. I think some of them could use more work. Not to criticize my wife, but okay, so then that is good. We need to do the same thing though in multiple spots. Just gonna double check. Yep, we're good. We're gonna grab this one, we're gonna paste it, we're gonna rename it to Takashi, and we're gonna make another folder for Usato. Okay, and then we're going to come into here and we're going to update the names. And Usato. Okay, and then I'm going to just color swap these. Sorry, I'm doing this quickly off camera. Darker blue. Okay, and then we just need to make sure that we set up the addressable names, which look to be identical to the actual name of the asset right now. How am I doing on time? 30 minutes. Okay, we're making progress. There is a fair amount of setup here. That's okay. Now, I want to bring in Usato's character as well. So let's come into here. Let's go to Blender. Same idea. We're going to open up the rigged version in here. We're going to look at the animations. We're going to scroll up. I'm going to untick this. We want idle. We want run. For this character, we want get up from prone. And ideally, we have a death animation as well. That one might be trickier for us to do. Do I want to hack something together? What if, hear me out, this was just frame like, I don't know, 60? Playback speed of 1, repeat of 1 for now. Star this one. What if we went back a little further? Frame 0. That's fine. 50. Let's do that. Okay, so 55. And then, what's the difference here? I don't know. I can't figure it out easily. I'm just going to shrink it down till we're close. We're looking to make this N value just below 9. Cool. And then repeat twice. And then what does this look like? Oh, it's very leg twitchy. There's probably an animation we could go grab for being prone, but I really said I didn't want to deal with Mixmo right now, so I think we are just going to use this for the time being, and then we will find a better animation later. So we'll do death backwards, which is now basically an idle ground. Prone, get up, idle. We don't need kick. And run. Ooh, I do want to try bringing in one animation that I already have. If we come in here, there was one I grabbed before stream, even before the first stream today. If we import FBX, go up a level into Yuta's animations, I grabbed this heal that I think might be good, and we're going to see if we can bring it over here. So this is a very complicated character. Is this the animation I want? Yes. Magic cast. Okay. Magic heal. We already have a magic heal? Did I already bring it in and forgot? We're just going to undo a little bit. What could possibly go wrong? Let's save as before I make any more changes. Sure, we'll make a new folder. We didn't do this for Amu, but it's fine. And then we're just going to rename this. And save as. Cool. Beans raid. Thank you, Velcro Beans, for the raid. All right, so we are getting animations into our game, is the short version for people who are joining. We have a bit of a pipeline, which sometimes can be a huge pain, but I'm just double checking. So did I already have heal magic cast? We did. Perfect. Okay, so this is animating correctly onto Usato. So we're going to come in here and we're going to push down this animation. And then we just need to do, what was the math here? 7.9 divided by 80 should get us close to just below 9 here. And we can repeat this twice so that our animation system will get it from both angles. And we'll leave that as ticked. That should be good. So Usato is going to have magic heal, idle, get up from prone, death backwards, run, and that should be it. Okay, we're going to go into our script. We're going to render this out, making sure that we're only selecting this armature, and that should go into our folder. So many chatters. Hope you had a good stream. What were you up to? I assume if you're raiding in here, some sort of game dev. Okay, so these are all rendering out. Perfect. That all looks good. Now we're going to bring this into A-Sprite. Let's start with, we'll start with the top. So we're going to grab this one, bring it in. A-Sprite will realize all these frames exist. And so this is the death animation. It's a bit jank, but it'll do for now. Oh, thank you for the follow too. Appreciate that. Okay, so that's the death. Let's make a new file here. We're going to save this A-Sprite file. We're going to make a new one for Usato. Folder name, Usato. Create. We're going to rename the file. Perfect. And then we're going to grab all these animations. Let's start with the idle, because that, you know what? Yeah, we want to start with idle and run, because those are the most important ones to us. Everything else is mostly going to be flavor for our cutscenes. Yeah, so we'll grab this one. We want to change our canvas size. Looks like, once again, this needs to go down 2. We saw the same thing with our other characters. Still 48 by 48. Perfect. Very cool. Working on an enemy strategy system so you can create strategies like chase, ranged combat, flee, and more, so that we can attach strategy to different enemy definitions without having to redo the logic each time. I did something earlier the week similar. I guess I should do a small rundown, I suppose. If you're not familiar with the game we're working on, me and my wife Trixie are working on a tactical adventure game is what I've been referring to it as. But essentially there's a number of different maps. It's kind of got an isekai narrative genre to it. And you explore through the world and do tactical combat while getting into a lot of Final Fantasy Tactics looking cutscenes is like a lot of the inspiration for it. That's kind of that's the short version. It's got a lot of mechanics layered on top, but that is the simplest version to explain. We'll use this one real quick. We were just in here and we know that this is functional. I can't remember. I don't think folks were here when we did this. But this is an example where we are coming into one of the first major moments in Chapter 1 where we have this adventure. We've tried to save them once before. We failed, but there's kind of a groundhog time loop thing happening where the goddess sends us back to the beginning of the time loop and we're able to actually cross over the river this time. And then we try and save this adventurer from the boar, but she ends up basically taking off because we don't have a way of defending ourselves yet. And then we will end up dying to this boar, and then we time out again, and the loop begins once more. So it's kind of like a roguelike, but with like a fixed map. But you essentially do runs where the goddess basically sends you back into the world over and over again. we're in a bad debug state where it's playing the very first cutscene in the game. But yeah, so you do runs, fight stuff, level up. There's a skill tree, trying to do a Final Fantasy X sphere grid type thing, and you kind of explore the world and try and figure out how to save all the characters within the time loop. And it's kind of broken up into chapters, and each chapter is essentially, it's a new checkpoint. Yeah. Right now, I've been off for about 3 weeks so far. I took 4 weeks off work, so I've got 1 more week. I'm trying to get all of chapter 1 done as like a vertical slice to show what we have up and running. Some of it's working, some of it's not. Combat still feels a little bit off to me. We have a lot of systems in place, but a lot of it isn't quite functional. Or I should say isn't feeling right. So like at this stage in the game, I've got the enemies set up, and we can essentially fight them. The way combat works is each of your abilities have an amount of time associated with them. So slash takes 3 ticks, bash takes 5, but we can see the enemy is going to attack us in 3. And so I can get into these situations where I can take out the enemies. But if I like, the real problem is like, depending on what the enemy is doing, I don't feel like there's enough impact that the player can have. Eventually we will get like next tier level abilities where if you hold L1 you'll be able to use abilities that cross like some of these 6 crystals that will fill in as you play through the game. But at the base level here with our simple toolkit, oftentimes it feels like there's not a lot you can do other than just hit the enemy. There is a kind of stagger mechanic where slash builds up stagger quite aggressively, and then bash does a ton of damage to enemies. But against these little ones, it doesn't really make big... It's not a big difference maker. You don't really need to engage with that mechanic. I think I had the debug turned on for revealing the map. That's kind of the coolest thing that we have going on, that often when people come in, they kind of think is pretty interesting, is this like the system of revealing the tiles one by one. But yeah, versus this bigger slime, it definitely does matter a lot more about like using slash to build up the stagger and then using the bash ability to do massive damage to them once they are stunned. Yeah, so there's almost like a bit of a dungeon crawler. Like Etrian Odyssey was a big inspiration for me at one point, where I was like building a lot of this tactical system, and then I was like, I really like playing it. I played through Etrian Odyssey HD, and I was like, I love the way that as I move, the map just fills in that game. And I was like, what if I took that idea and actually went with it in like what I was working on in this kind of map tile grid, and kind of got something that feels like it has a really neat exploration aspect of it, while still kind of keeping that tactical nature. Cool. That's the short version. It's a lot more. There's a whole time mechanic, the defeating the demon lord, the miasma. Like there's a lot of weird edge case mechanics that I'm trying, and some of it works, some of it doesn't. But again, I just want to, I've spent a long time, like 5 years, just 5+ years spent building all these pipelines and tools and stuff, and I want to just put it together into a game, and I keep getting stuck where I'm just like, I don't want to, like, it doesn't feel right. I'm going to polish this and polish this and polish this, and like that polish is showing, but at the same time it means I'm never finishing anything. So this 4 weeks off for vacation has been to try and actually like focus in and actually like build something, whether it's good or bad. I just want to have something done and not get so lost in just, you know, get so lost in whether or not it's good or not. Okay, so we have this idol. Oh, right, and you had mentioned the combat system. I just want to quickly, that was something I was working on earlier this week, but I was setting it up so that the slime enemy basically has aggressive patterns that, like, when you choose an ability, it chooses from this ordered list first, and the first thing it does is try to do this conditional to see whether or not it's already found a friend. I want to make this more generic. Right now it specifically looks at the state machine to see whether or not it's found a friend, but I think this could be property-based strings or some sort of flag-like system to determine what things it cares about, and then it checks to see whether or not its stagger stat is above 50, And if it is, it'll try and perform a search looking for an ally that's out of combat, essentially. Otherwise, if it fails all of that, it'll come back up to the order picker and then go into randomize, at which point it'll choose between smash, chase, or its basic attack. And these all have like distance overrides, so this will only perform if the player is within 1, whereas chase will only get performed if the player is at least 2 away. And 64 is essentially, for the size of my grid, the maximum. So very cool. Yeah, I'll say that a lot of my stuff is based off of Liquid Fire blogs' tutorials. I kind of used those tutorials like 7 years ago, and then like I've been building up. Some of it has changed a lot, but some of these things, like the ability picker, is actually still very similar to Liquid Fire blogs' Final Fantasy Tactics Advance tutorial series for Unity, which is, like I said, very old at this point, but a lot of really neat ideas in there in terms of like AI building and things. Definitely worth a look if you're doing that type of stuff. Okay, cool. Characters. So we have the character exported. We are bringing it into here, and we're going to copy this idle over into the new format here. We're going to paste it in. We're going to check to see whether or not it lines up with our old hero character. It's a little bit off in position. I'm going to shift it. So we're going to grab this. We're going to move this back, I think. It's hard to say. It feels like the feet position is a little bit different, but I'm not sure whether or not it actually matters. Where was it originally? Yeah, maybe it could be moved back 1. And then I get the feeling same thing here. It just centers it. Just try and have it be consistent a little bit between these different characters. Not super important. Okay, so that's the idle. Then let's get the run. We can close out the idle now. Let's get the run animation. Bring this in. Agree. And then what is the smallest point or the lowest point here? Somewhere around there, it looks like. 48 by 48. That looks fine to me. Yeah, I don't see any pixels that are going lower than that, so we'll go canvas size 4848. And then we'll grab the run, copy all of that into here, replace this, and then double check to make sure it's lining up pretty close. Once again, it feels like it's almost forward a little bit. I wonder if that model in Blender was just a little bit out of position, but I think that fixes it close enough. So that is the walk loops. Those are set up. Next, we want to bring in a couple of different animations for the character dying. So we're going to grab this death backwards, which is essentially going to be a prone. What is the lowest point? It's definitely going to be this one. So 48 by 48. Yeah, way out of position. We're going to have to manually adjust each of these to be somewhat centered. Yeah. Okay, we're going to bring them over. And then we will reposition. So here, we can go to hero and look at hero's death, because that should be a relatively good lineup for where we usually put dead characters. Hero's death is here. So we'll grab these and then paste them over here as kind of like a guide stick. So we'll put those here, turn down that layer. We mostly just care about the final death frame, which is there. So I'm actually going to delete all of these except for that one, at least for this facing. Oh, interesting. They're actually kind of flipped almost. Normally we do... We consider this southwest when the character is facing this way, essentially. So do I think that this death is also southwest? I think it is. I think it is. So we're going to bring this down to somewhere like there. And we'll just see. Yeah, I don't like that this is so high. I might need to just get a completely different animation for today. And because we have so many people watching, I don't want to finesse on pixel pushing too much. Sure. So that is going to be a prone loop. And then our script for importing all of this into Unity will need to add a new keyword for prone. We got a couple of new keywords we're going to need to be adding. Unlockable characters with the hydration, appreciated as always. All right. Let's see what else we grab. We got the get up. Let's bring that one in. Same idea. We do need to bring this down to 48 by 48. We need to check the first frame on both, see which one is lower. They're about the same. Because we don't want to clip any pixels. We'll use this one 8, this one first. All right, and then copy these over and drop them here. How's that line up with the idle position? That looks about right. Okay, so as long as we're not too far up, no, that all looks to be about on the bottom of the frame. So we're gonna tag that. We will call this Southwest Get Up. Is that a, what, do we have a keyword for that already inside of our what is it, sprite processor? We just had it open, anim sprite processor. This is what we're looking for. Do we have a, we do have get up. Okay, so get up is the keyword we use for this animation. This is not looping, so it should just be just the name. Change the background. Okay. And then let's add prone while we're here. So we need to add prone. I'm not seeing prone as a default animation name. There's death, but that should be a trigger for dying. Yeah, we're going to need a prone. So we'll do prone. And we need to also do the same thing here so that it knows what this animation tag is from the JSON from a sprite and will appropriately create all of the triggers and connections between all of the animations inside of our animation controller. Because I generate all that stuff from scratch because it's too much of a pain otherwise to do it every time manually. Okay, so that's get up. What else do we need? We got prone, get up. Ooh, magic heal. I want to grab magic heal as well. And is that the last one that we care about? Because we got the death backwards, which is kind of a lay down prone. We've got the get up, we've got the run, we've got the idle. I think this is the last animation we need, and then we can import it and start working on some cutscenes. So what do we got here? This has placement of the feet. Lowest point is on this one, 48 by 48. We're going to need to bring the canvas down 1, it looks like. And then good enough. Yeah, that'll do. Copy this over into here, and we're going to paste that there. And this will be tagged as Southwest. What do we want to call this? Cast? What is a keyword we use? Magic cast. Perfect. And new tag, Northwest. Magic cast. Well, close. All right, that should be everything. So we can save this A-Sprite file and then export. We're going to want to rename this to Usato. We're going to grab the name. This will be the PNG, and then we want the JSON file, which is going to need to go into the correct folder. And this is how our script will know how to import everything. Packed, array, that all looks good. Now we can come into here, and we need to change this to the folder path. So this will be NPC's Usato, and then slice an anim character. This should generate a animation file for us. Just like that, and it has walk, prone, get up, and magic cast. Those look like all the pieces we need. We will have this character start in idle northwest as its default position, and now we just need to go into the prefab we've already set up for Usato and then change the animation controller to the one we just generated, and we'll just assign the first sprite to the first sprite. If you're new here, basically what I just did was I have a script that reads through the JSON file from A-Sprite, and basically figures out from the tags how to generate all of the controllers, or the motions essentially. So each of these motions are essentially assigning the sprites in here with the correct timing. So whatever timing we have in here for the milliseconds that this wants to have. So this is a 35 millisecond frame, or 35 millisecond frame, 35. These might all be 35. But if they're varying, it will actually vary those in Unity and create all of those. And then it also generates the controller and hooks up all the transitions so that these little keywords will also just work. Cool. So now that should be working. If we come into here and we load up this scene in I4, we should see Takashi and Usato idling, basically. We're going to have to write some more logic for scripting the characters into default states. In this particular scene, we want Usato dead on the ground, essentially, and Takashi kneeling over him, providing aid, essentially. That did not work. Why did that not work? What are you loading? You are actually using the wrong container prefab. So you want to use... brain work. All right, we want to use this one. Perfect. Now we should see them idling. Oh, interesting. Why? Why are you continuously playing this get up animation? It is not triggered. Now it is in idle. Why did you just play that animation over and over again? If direction... This requires the trigger. That was odd. This one's fine. Oh. Southeast does not have the proper data. Ah, capitalization matters. Capitalization matters. Yeah. This needs to be capital U. Otherwise, my system doesn't consider it the same. Well, not my system. Strings don't consider it the same. I suppose I could rewrite it so that it actually is not case sensitive, but did you regenerate them? You did. So we will delete these ones. And we should double check to make sure these now properly have the parameter assigned to them, and they do. Perfect. So now if we run this again, ideally he should just be doing the idle. And like I said, we are in the process of building a system to make it so that they have default states, but right now it is not working. So when we come in here, I'd like to have it so this character is in a prone loop, which this is way too intense. And then for you, we want you in a kneel. Positioning is a little bit off. I feel like the characters... There's not a great way to fix this because it's kind of based off of their tile position. So if we want to shift Yusato down a bit... You know, maybe it's fine. He's like working on his leg. I don't know. Let's turn down... Let's turn down the movement speed here. Let's go into prone, loop. What is the current animation speed on these? 100? What if we change the frame rate to like 200 so it's twice as slow? Honestly, I think we could even go like 250. Just a very simple in pain. Just slight movement. I think we could also rearrange some of these frames as well, because right now it's kind of going, it's not very looping. So if we like change the last frame to be the first frame to be the last frame, that might look a little better. What if we just swapped these two? And same thing here. I'm just gonna make a wild change. That's popping a bit too much. We'd have to keep going. I think we could take this one and change it to be this one, and then that should be looking a little bit more like it's looping back and forth. Yeah. Okay, so then same thing here. Copy this one and paste it here, and that should look like it's looping between two animations a little bit more cleanly. Cool. Let's export. Export. Bring it in. Slice and anim that specific folder, and then we should see that in action. Animator, prone, animator kneel. It's fine. I think it could use more work. Like Trixie could probably do an art pass on it, but I think that should work for the time being to try and hopefully sell the idea of this character being hurt and needing help. I want to turn off debug spawn all in. I'm not going to worry about snapping them to the correct animation at start right now, because I think that's going to be a huge pain. What I want to do, I think, is maybe just have the cutscene trigger them into the correct animation, and then I will, off camera at a later point, get it set up more correctly. But that's it, though. We've got almost all our characters. We're just missing Yuta, and then we are... Then we have a placeholder for all of them. I want to build the rest of these cutscenes. So, how do we do that? What do we need to do here? The next cutscene I had on my list... Let me bring up my list of notes. The next one we had up was here, current progress point. We had, after you have done collecting all the red plants for the healing item, you have to deliver the healing tonic to Asato. I think this is going to be a good one, actually, because it's going to have us performing a lot of animations with the characters we've just created. So we're going to try setting this one up. So we're going to do healing tonic. Let's go find that. I think I brought all of these in already. We've done an import on our spreadsheet. Yeah, so this exists as a cutscene. So we're going to come into here, and what is this triggering? This is triggering on deliver tonic. We're going to change the trigger to be the talk. This is triggering on injured adventurer. I'm going to give this the same name for this trigger point, but we're going to make it so that in order for us to get this dialogue, we need to have require completed the cutscene with Yuta to collect all of the herbs. Yeah. And there's two different variations, right? I don't love this, but there's two different ways you can complete the quest. So we have two different flags we're going to need to check against to see whether or not this is a valid animation. I've been listening to this one for a while. Let's change it up again to maybe this one. Okay. Quest complete. This one. This is the one I'm looking for. So we're going to change this so that this cutscene requires that you've completed these two flags, aka you've done these cutscenes. And then this one is going to need the opposite. Basically, you need to have not started either of these. Perfect. So if you've not completed the quest from Yuta, then this person is injured. If you have, you're going to get the delivering the tonic cutscene instead. Yeah. And then this should be a higher priority. So we're going to reduce the priority of this one down to 998. So just one lower priority, just in case the flag system doesn't end up working. This should come in first. It does not need a response type because it's going to come from an interaction, and it should not be repeatable / reset on a new run. Some of the timeline stuff is really tricky to keep straight because it's like, when has Hero talked to these people and when has Hero not in this time loop? And I guess I'm realizing I need another cutscene eventually for if you've delivered the tonic but you come in and talk to these adventurers again. I might need another different cutscene. Or maybe we go back to injured adventurer. I don't know. I'll figure that out later. Cool. So then this is now set up. I should be able to just talk to the character and I should get the new deliver tonic being played. And then we'll go in and add animation calls so that the animations play throughout. Okay. No, we are still getting the original. Oh, right. No, that makes sense. We need to change our debug flags so that we are actually using a new set of flags that have those cutscenes completed. What do we have here? Adventurer met. This one is checking to see what? This is checking to see if you've spoken to them. We don't have a preset yet for this. So we're going to make a new preset off of this one. We're going to call this one number 11, and this will be Adventurer 3 Quest Complete. And then in here at the bottom, we're going to add both of those requirement flags that we added to the cutscenes. Which is going to be a pain. I feel like I want some sort of like search system for my GUIs here, where like I can start typing in a flag and it's smart enough to know from the JSON file that like, oh, that you're trying to type this, and it like auto completes it. I feel like that would be very handy in a lot of these situations. So we're going to add this one. We're going to set that to complete by default. And then tonic delivered. We're going to grab this one. And we're going to set both of the quest complete variants to complete. Now, if we drag this into our scenes preset, it'll essentially load us into this map as though we were doing this cutscene. Yeah, perfect. That is what we're looking for. It is now playing out the correct cutscene. So now we need to add the animations to all this. Cool. So inside of our cutscene, we're going to do a couple of things. Like I said, I don't have them set up to be in their default states, so we're going to put them in their default animation to start with, just so that we can get a better idea of how this is going to flow. So we're going to do animation, parameter, drag this all the way up to the top. And we're going to modify the entity. This is going to be Takashi. Deliver tonic. Let's do this in this inspector. It's going to be a little bit easier, I think. So we're going to do Takashi as the entity. Do we need to target the component or the container? I think it's the container in this situation. Because we are modifying the animation, which is on the topmost object. I think that's right. And then inside of the parameter, we want to put this character into a bool animation for Neil. So we should just be able to type Neil. Duration will be 0, and end animation on complete will be no. And that should be good enough. And then we're going to do the same thing with animation parameter. And we're going to put Takashi, or sorry, Usato container prone, which is a bool parameter, setting it to true, no duration, and do not end the animation on animation complete. Okay, that should put them in their default states. And now I need some sort of indication that we have healed the character. Let's go take a look at the cutscene for when the goddess in the one of the early cutscenes, the goddess hands over an item. Could we repurpose that for now? Play particle interact. Sure. Position 1, offset -5 on the Z. I have not worked with this one in the 3 weeks we've been off. In fact, I don't think I've used this one since we built it. It looks like it just wants the entity ID. That seems weird. Deliver tonic. I'm going to anchor this one. Combat probably for play particle. I am correct. And we're going to try the container, actually. And then the particle will be the same. And then we will also try like a 1 on the Y and a -0.5 on the Z. And we're going to play this particle after we hand over the item. And then we will delay for a couple of seconds just for the animation of the particle to play. And then we will do another animation parameter. We're going to turn off the prone I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to try turning off the prone animation. And at the same time, we're going to trigger... I wonder if this could be a new sequence step. A turn off looping animation and trigger a new animation. And we're going to play a trigger, which for Usato was just get up is what we ended up going with, right? Yeah, this name. So we're just going to have it play get up, and that'll be a bool trigger. I don't know if we need this animation on complete. I can't. What does this do? I added a tooltip, right? Used for bool animations, duration must be greater than 0. Blocks ending the animation. Okay, interesting. Blocks ending when animation is complete. Okay, I think I know what that does, but we don't need it for this. So we're just going to hit trigger. We're going to set it to blocking so that it will not move on from this animation trigger get up and play the animation or play the next dialogue until this is over. And in fact, I think, you know, the next dialogue is Takashi even saying, essentially, you're crowding me. So we're going to have... maybe Takashi move? Maybe it should be Usato that moves. Where is Usato currently standing? On 612. So what if we had Usato move back to 512? Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. We want cutscene, navigate, to tile, and facing. So we want to do move to 512, and we want to change our facing to be east, I believe. Okay, and let's see how that's feeling before we go too much further with adding more sequence steps. Does it trigger all the animations? Yeah, it puts them in the right state to start with. Good. Let's zoom in. Ah, failed. What did it fail on? It was unable to allocate that poolable object. This definitely works in that cutscene with the goddess. I played through it just last evening. Interesting. Does the goddess realm like generate that particle like manually? Oh, it does. Oh, that's funny. Can we steal that? If we just come in here. Oh, we can just drag it in. Okay. Yeah, so we'll just have this scene have one particle for the interact in the pool, and it'll find this. Yeah, okay, that'll work. We just need a poolable object in the scene in order for this setup to work. Okay, snap them into the right position. Still failed. It did set it up. I see that it is here. It is cloned. It has this ID particle under /1_interact_. It did create it. Like the clone exists. Interesting. On wait, As long as it has an ID, it should register itself. So it should auto-register itself in this setup. Did I somehow get, like, the ID name wrong? I did get... Okay, well, alright. That's... process of elimination. We figured it out. Interesting. I saw it play. It played basically over here just for a second in the left side of the screen. So it didn't anchor to the right spot. Okay, I see how this is going though. This is fine. So I'm gonna guess, did it not find the anchor point and silently failed? Play particle sequence step. How does this work? It will allocate it. And it'll try and assign its position to the transform position of the entity. This would have failed if it didn't find an actual proper entity ID. I'm going to just attach debugger real quick and see what's going on here. Looks like most of the people from the raid have wandered off. Hope people enjoyed themselves. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Still a fair number of people hanging out, though. Ah, sneaky. Okay, let's see how this goes. What is your game victory, Game and Zombie? Are you also working within Unity or Godot or Unreal? What's your engine of choice? My entity lookup system is going to try and find the Osato container. It's doing some lookups, finding the string hash. It has found the container. It found it and its position is 000. Really? Interesting. Let's go take a quick look at the version that we copied this from. That's not unlikely. It's possible we're supposed to be using... Oh, I did get this wrong. I know what I did wrong. Because this did set up with first return. Unlock this, it'll be easier to show. This used entity ID goddess. If there is not underscore container, it's actually looking at the sprite renderer. And in this context, that is what we want to anchor to, because the actual container is, most of them are set up in 00, and all of the actual components underneath for where the sprite is and all that stuff is actually updated on its own. So in this context, we don't want the container, we want just the name of the object, because that'll be the true position that we want to anchor to. My brain, where are we? Here, deliver tonic. So if we just get rid of this and we just say Osato, it should find the renderer, basically, is what that entity ID is, which should be hopefully a better anchor point. Oh, I love a good complicated game. I love a good complicated game. If you can't tell from the nonsense I'm building. I have a bad habit of like just building more and more stuff on top, but I think I'm finally done. I think what the amount of mechanics this thing has is finally at a point where it's like, it's fine. It can exist. It should work. Okay, so the interact happened. It's not very noticeable, but at least it's interacting in the right spot. Okay, I like the way this is feeling though. So now we have Osato getting up, moving, and after that, we can have, I think, the timing of this I'm not sure on, but we're gonna give this another navigate. So we're gonna have, we'll have Takashi say, "You give me a scare like you haven't given me a scare like that in a long time, old friend," and then we will have an animation play because we want to have the get up play. So we'll do animation parameter. And again, we're going to have to do the same thing we did for Usato, which is interesting. We're going to have to turn off the looping animation. So this is going to be Takashi container. And we're going to go into the kneel and we're going to disable it. And then we're going to have to play an animation parameter to trigger the actual get up. This will be of type trigger. And then once the animation's over, then Takashi can move back. Oh, can't move back. There's a pillar behind. Okay, so maybe we don't do a move then. We just do a stand up. This is a typo. I need to do a full pass on grammar. Okay, and then in here, we have a lot of back and forth, but not a lot of room for animation. And I feel like movement and animation really helps with like breaking up all this dialogue. Can we try adding one of the animations for talking that we got for Takashi here, just to break this up? We'll do a trigger animation and we'll do talk. No duration, just play the animation once, and we'll make it non-blocking so that this animation happens as the dialogue appears. Oh, that's a neat idea. What if we broke this up into two pieces? Because just what this needs is more dialogue, but I do like this idea. So what if we have Takashi move? Please show me the setup. Takashi, where are you? I want to duplicate this, please. Duplicate array element. Did you do it that time? You did. So we're going to break this into two different lines. We'll do ... here. And then we'll do ... here. So that these are two different voice lines, or not voice lines, but two different dialogues. And now that they're two different dialogues, now we can make it so that there's kind of a movement in between them. Let's see how that feels. So we're going to do cutscene, navigate to tile and facing. We will have Takashi move to where exactly? So standing here currently, can walk over to maybe 810. don't think I want to have this conversation move all the way over to here, but we could have it move to the actual exit. Let's see. Well, you know what? Let's go to the most extreme. So we'll go to 13-7. So just a real long walk here, and then facing south. And then after this dialogue happens, navigate to tile and facing. We'll then have Takashi move over to here. What is here? 13-11. Which I don't think we need the facing part of this, but I'm just going to make sure that the face north is happening. Okay, let's see how that's feeling. Another cutscene. Let's see. We also need to steal some logic from one of our other cutscenes, because this one ends with the goddess pulling us back to the goddess realm after we get the shield from these two. Oh, breakpoint is still in. Let's get rid of that. Ah, the animations didn't work for Takashi here. Oh, I like the talk animation, though. That one was good. This one is too long. Yeah, this was my fear, is it's too much movement here. Yeah, and some of these dialogue boxes are too long. Okay, how do we fix this? We could have the group moving towards that crossroads earlier in the dialogue, so that they move that way, so that it's not such a long move all at once. We added a dialogue, so we need to add another entry in here. This didn't work, though. The kneel being unticked and then the get up, we didn't actually see these animations play properly. It's a little concerning. We might need some custom logic for these types of moments where we want the bool animation to... Yeah, maybe the setup is actually that we want to have get up be an automatic transition from prone, so that when we untick prone, it just plays get up immediately. And same thing with the kneel into stand. I don't have a way in my tag animation importer to kind of link animations like that. But we see this a lot with our UI, where we want to have like animations linking to each other, and I usually have to do those manually. So I'm definitely feeling potentially like a bit of functionality that the tool could use. Sure. All right, so okay, maybe a little too intense. If we did this one, I feel like this one's just a little too sharp. What if I go back to my favorites? Let's do Stranded. All right. Let's minimize all these other folders so it's easier to spot the cutscene section we're actually looking in. So we could either look at trying to fix this animation glitch, or honestly, probably more important is stealing the logic from Mace Pickup. How does this work? We do a reduced time to 0 call. Is that all we have to do? Oh, neat. All right, let's give that a shot. So if we come into Deliver Tonic, that's probably going to be a cutscene sequence step. Reduce time to 0 is not backend? Yeah, backend. Okay. So if we do this at the end, it should just like end the run immediately. This cutscene is getting big enough that we may need to break it up into smaller pieces, which is unfortunate, but some of them get so big that my tool cannot handle the amount of sequence steps, and the reorderable list starts to lag out. We're going to do another particle play as Hero gets handed the shield. Long term, it would be nice to actually see the shield as like an actual prop. This will be player, I think. Let's play this cutscene again and see how it's feeling now. Yeah, and the timeout works. Normally you would get here with a lot less time on the clock, so it wouldn't look as crazy. Cool. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but the bones of the cutscene is fine. I do want this facing to be fixed. This should be facing south. This walk from Takashi is too long. I need to find a way to break that up. I gotta figure out how to handle the kneel going into the getup. I think the honest answer is just to have so each of these chain from the prone loop, so when the prone loop ends it automatically goes into these, but I want to give that some more thought as well. Okay, let's do a dialogue anchoring pass. So we're going to run through that same cutscene, but we're going to try and figure out where we want each of these dialogues to be positioned and potentially changing the size of some of them. So right off the bat here, we have this one, which is fine. Do we want this one to stay open? Let's see here. All right. Yeah, this can stay open. And then next, we can have Takashi's, instead of being right, could it be top center? Yeah, I like them kind of anchoring into here. They're kind of folding. We could try top left. Reads okay. I guess part of the issue here is that this dialogue is anchoring to the top of where this character normally is. Oh, do I have to build some sort of offset system for my dialogues? So that, like, in situations like this, it knows to go down a little bit? What is this anchoring to? Is it anchoring to the top of the character? If we come into here and we do top anchor, and we drag this down a little bit. No, it is not moving. Okay, so it is not anchoring to this point. Some of our UI does, but I guess the dialog boxes don't. They're probably looking at the actual size of the sprite bound, if I remember correctly. Okay, so then given that, I think I like right of center the most then. I could go back and forth, but it's not a big deal. Then we're going to do close all, so that it closes both of these at the same time. Then we get the little impact sprite. Where do we want this one? Usato can do a top center, top left. I think I like top left a little bit more. We still need to realign the pivot for this so it's a little bit more correctly placed, but I think either one of these would be fine. I'm gonna go top center, mostly because it looks the most right. This will close self immediately because the character is going to move and we don't want dialogues up while they're moving. Right of center still feels okay here. Dialogue isn't clipping off screen at all. So this is fine. Can this stay open? I think it can. We can leave this as stay open medium right of center because the character is going to stand up, but currently they're not moving, so stay open is fine. Okay, and then this one definitely needs to be shifted then. Is that going off camera? Just barely not. Can this be a small? Might be able to get away with this being a small. If it was top center small, this actually probably wouldn't overlap. Yeah, I'm going to try changing this to a small. That doesn't auto-update. Sadly, our UI system decides the dialog box at the beginning. So we'd have to replay to see if the small will work. This, I think, needs to be... We could do small bottom center or bottom left. This is going to get very crowded, though, if we leave this one up. You know what? I'm going to have this one close self after all. So this closes, and then this one will remain up. And then This one can stay open. This one can stay open small. And then this one will close all, actually. Yeah, close all, so this one can take priority, top center. This one should be already closed in this new scenario. I like that. Cool. This can stay open, medium. Is this one too long? I think this was the one that was too long. Ah, but it's okay now that we're going back to back. Because when we do 2 dialogues in a row, we get rid of the name of the character. So that's fine. I'm curious if this stays open and then Usato does a left of center. Medium. Can this actually be a small? This might be able to get away with being a small. They overlap a little bit too much. Yeah, even if we do that. Yeah, okay. So I think that I do want this one to close self then. We'll put an emphasis on this line. We'll leave this one open. Ooh, interesting idea. What if... Right now we're having a problem with this run taking too long. No, that wouldn't work. I was thinking we could have the character preemptively be moving, but I don't love that because it's going to feel less like a response if he's moving right away. Okay, so then this is closed self. I like right of center on this one. Medium is okay. Close self. And then medium. Left of center. Close self. Okay, give that a try. Some bad timings, but that's fine. Don't like the overlap there. So we're going to need to change this to be like... Now we're overlapping the characters. There was a loud noise, but I think it was my headset, and I don't think it should have been audible for chat. It just spooked me. Okay. Where can we put this so it's not... Bottom center works. Sure, and then that'll close self. And then this one is a medium right of center, stay open. Because the next line is also really long. No, it's not too bad, but that's fine. Stays open. And then hero can do a medium bottom center. Don't like that overlapping, so it'll have to be left of center. Sure. And then I think this can stay open into Usato doing a right of center anchor, close all. It's a lot of dialogue box moving, but I think it's going to be okay. The motion is better in some regards, is the way I feel about it, but we'll have to get playtest feedback to really see whether or not it's just annoying. Okay, let's see that all together. One last playthrough. And then honestly, I wanted to get like a bunch of these done, but it took me forever just to get the characters imported and to do one of these. I feel like my estimation on how long this is going to take is still way off. It's going to be like another 1.5 years for me to build all the chapters I want to build. Even with all the pipelines and the speeding up systems that we have to like kind of increase the production speed so that all this content is as quick as possible to make, it still just feels like the amount of time it takes is the amount of time it takes. Yeah, okay. Only one small problem there, which is that the goddess's dialogue overlaps a little bit, or overflows the dialogue box on the first entry. This one here. So this will need to be a large, which means the following one needs to be a large, because they chain into each other, which doesn't make as much sense, but maybe there's a way to make them both medium, but take some of this dialogue and move it to the second line. I'll have to think about that. Yeah, there's just a lot of pixel pushing too. Just a lot of pixel pushing. All right, I think I'm going to be ready to call it. Now, the proper thing to do here is to raid someone else, right? I just end stream, but I guess today I'll have to figure out how this raiding thing works. Because I feel like if I get raided into, the only right thing to do is to raid someone else. I do not know how this works. Well, now I'm in a pickle. Just not used to the whole being social and like raiding into other people. Is there any other Unity developers? I don't think need help, just like unsure about the process. Because if I go same category and Unity, I see a couple of channels who are doing software and development in Unity. But I just click on one of these and then the raid gets sent. We just pass it along. Oh, I found it. I'm just like, I guess the debate is who to send us to. Cool. I guess what I need to do is start figuring out who raids around the same time as me, because I also feel unsure about sending folks to someone I'm not sure on. But yeah, we could do Moonwood. Let me mute my desktop audio for a second. Okay. Okay. Let's go based off of Victory Gaming Zombies recommendation. Let's raid into Moonwood Games. Sure. Let's do that. For now, this is Totally signing out. Later, folks.